Hi everyone, I'm Zach and I like movies, and I'm back with another entry in my Letterboxd Criterion Challenge for 2024. And this one's a special one, because the prompt today was number 37, which was family. The genre was family. And I went with an unsung classic, and one I have not seen in a long, long time. This was the Black Stallion from 1979. It is based on the Walter Farley novel of the same name, and man, this takes me back. Like I've not seen this since I was a kid. This was one of those books that we read in English class, and then we watched the movie. Watched the movie version of it. I had a couple of those actually, a couple really good ones. Like there was I think a Call of the Wild one. There was White Fang. That was pretty. Probably a better book than a movie, but that was still a good one. The Indian in the Cupboard. That was good too. What else? There was Where the Red Fern Grows. That's absolute classic. Real heartbreaker, but it's so good. And I think out of all of them, I think the Black Stallion is probably the most unique in terms of the adaptation, because a lot of these family movies, they sort of have even when they hit more typical family genre trappings and generic beats that are kind of typical with family movies, especially ones that are kid and animal adventure. A boy and his dog, a boy and a young man and his wolf, a girl and her horse, or boy and his dogs, boy and his alien friend. The works. Even when they hit these more familiar beats, I feel like the Black Stallion, there's never a sense with this movie that there's really any condescending or really any cloying emotion. It's not like it's not talking down to its audience, neither children nor the adults watching, and it's not really manipulative. There's never quite so much any forced whimsy here, and especially with the Black Stallion. I think it's because of its director, Caroll Ballard, who actually started out as a documentary filmmaker, but finally got the chance here to direct a movie when his UCLA alumni, Francis Ford Coppola, offered him this book and offered him the chance to direct, and that was kind of. And that really came out to great success, I think. And also you got a score. The score was provided by Francis's father, Carmine Coppola. Really beautiful score at times. But I feel like Ballard's sensibilities in terms of how he filmed this movie really makes this stand out. Because I think any other kind of movie like this that we have seen, especially in the 90s, there was a lot of this was like a Disney movie of the 90s. They would still be charming and entertaining, but they would have a shelf life, like movies like White Fang. That's a good I do remember really enjoying that movie, but it's not one that you quite return to. And I feel, but with the Black Stallion, this movie's majestic. It is beautiful. I feel like kids really deserve artistically minded movies like this, because the first half of this movie is phenomenal. No, because it's so breathtaking, and in its visuals, in the rhythms of its editing, and it's all told with little to no dialogue. This entire definitely the first half hour, first half, it's so amazing. All that is spoken, all that needs to be told are these visuals, and it's so great at communicating. So just communicating the story without it. So what it's about it's set in the early-ish 40s, and it's about this boy named Alec, and he's on a boat with his father from somewhere. And on the boat, he sees this beautiful Arabian stallion. It's the Black Stallion, which they just kind of calls black, kind kind of just didn't get the name. Oh, Black Beauty. That was another one. That was just like a horror. That was another book we read and watched the movie for in school class. But anyway. So the black and on this boat, it's very again, there's a lot of great atmosphere because we're just sort of sitting and watching and observing and feeling it out. The foreigners on this boat, the animal that's thrashing about. This is a really wild horse. It all feels like mysterious and scary to a young boy. And also the young boy here who's played by Kerry Reno, he's quite interesting because you could kind of tell that Kerry is not at this point was not like an experienced actor, and he never once feels like a child actor. He feels in like a quiet kid. Feels like the kind of quiet kid that like just that. He feels like a quiet child. Just very, very observant of the world around him and very like respondent to it. And he's on this boat with his father, and his father's like, gambling with some, foreigners and the ship captain. And, at that night, he just shares with him this this little figurine of Bucephalus, the horse, Alexander the Great's horse. And he tells the story about how Alexander tamed this wild beast, this fierce, almost monstrous horse. Horse had this fire in his eyes, smoke coming out its nose. And even in these parts of dialogue, there's still this great attention to just the patience and the atmosphere, and I couldn't help but like just cherish a movie like this. And I really, because I feel like children especially need to understand that understanding of quiet, of watching and just observing and knowing how to tell a story and how to understand a story without words. And words like that's something that I really cherished as a kid, because I couldn't really get the words out growing up. But there was also, and I also cherished, like, I felt so grateful watching Genndy Tartakovsky's animated stuff growing up, like his Star Wars and his Dexter and his Samurai Jack, especially just knowing how to like communicate with the visuals. And man, what visuals in this film there are! It's such a beautiful looking film, especially when the ship suddenly starts sinking, catches a blaze and starts sinking. The way that happens from Alec's point of view is so interesting, because we're just watching him lay in his cabin, and we're slowly zooming. We're slowly focusing in on the Bucephalus figurine up on a cupboard, and then like warm light starts coming up behind it, and like the figurine gets knocked over as the boat lurches over, and then he and his father they get their life vests on and they swarm outside, and it's all chaos, and Alec gets knocked over into falls into the drink and almost gets whacked over by the propeller of the boat as it's just nose diving into the water, and the Black Stallion falls over, and then he wakes up on a deserted island, and the Black Stallion's there with him too, and all he has on him is clothes off his back and the pocket knife that his dad gave him. And this stretch of the story is just Alec on the island with the horse, and they're just sort of it's sort of like what and it's these sort of sequences. They're not so much montages, but they're sort of like watching passages of visuals. And these, it's so measured out, and it's perfectly, the cuts are perfectly timed. And man, when Alec finally, like, when he slowly gains the trust of this wild horse, and he's able to finally get up and ride the horse, it's just amazing. It feels like you're riding on the clouds, and you're riding along on it with him, and it's so beautiful. And Ballard's camera here is so great, and actually makes me want to go around and find the other films he watched. He actually made some more like family movies about like a kid and some animal. Like he had a movie about a kid and an abandoned cheetah like named Duma from like 2005. But there was a 90s one he made with Anna Paquin and Jeff Daniels called Fly Away Home, which again it sounds kind of, could be like tripe and just manipulative trash, but from seeing how Ballard treats his camera, it's the camera and the relationship between the boy and the animal and the nature that they are surrounded by, it really feels like the kind of mature storytelling that children need. And then, but then Alec and Stallion and Black, they get rescued and they get brought back to America. And this back half is where the movie kind of almost could honestly read as a bit of a betrayal of the first half, where this first half is just so majestic and graceful, where this, and it has such some of the most perfect alchemy of image and sound and editing and just beauty, that and like no all the world is just this magic, this pure movie magic. It's probably the closest we would ever get to like Terrence Malick directing a Disney movie, but it then takes this more gradual shift where Alec is back home in this home with Black, and he's like he has the horse in his backyard, and then like the horse runs off into town. It's like the music is kind of like has like this forced whimsy to it of like, oh no, like the animal got away, I gotta chase it through town, and he's like passing by like all the sightings of a small town in the 40s, barber sweeping this corner, fruit stands get knocked over, he like runs in front of like a trolley car and all that stuff. But like even and then he like then he's met by this what was his name, by a man with his own horse, Napoleon, and then he like makes his way to a farm where he makes friends with the farmer there. What was his name? Henry, who's played by Mickey Rooney, one of the the hardest working man in show business, but way back in the day. Ask your grandparents if you still have grandparents. And over time they have this bond, and he finds that Henry used to race horses, and so Alec decides he's gonna have the Black Stallion race in a horse race, and it kind of becomes a more crowd-pleasing, typical sports movie beats, and those parts kind of again, it almost feels like a different movie in like a story sense, but there's still this like grace and maturity with the camera work and the editing. There's still a good amount of focus on a great visual eye for how this movie is shot. Like there's the scene where Alec where they're like practicing at the track. It's not like a training montage, just patient observance. Like you're just watching Alec run on the horse across the track and way back before he gradually comes around the other corner. And they have another scene like that where they're kind of showing the mystery horse to the press, and this is shot from inside the cars and like it's in the middle of a rainstorm, so you have these wonderful shots of the cars like slowly coming up and like, oh no, it's definitely him, and we're watching from this reporter Neville, this reporter's point of view through the rain-streaked windows, and it's gorgeous, and even the final race at the end, again, while reaching more kind of expected and sort of you could sort of sort of see where the movie goes from there, but it's still beautiful to watch. This is so gorgeously shot. It's such a gorgeously shot movie. It's such a beautiful and patient movie, and it's honestly the kind of movie that we really need more of. I would say that there's maybe and I do think, I would say there are some like pieces of the story that feel a little like vacant, like his mom just kind of feels like a hardly there presence, where I remember in the book being a bigger deal. There's also a Clarence Muse as Snow. He's kind of, he's like the owner of the horse Napoleon, who even has a Napoleon's hat. That's a nice touch. And he's also, I also remember in the book he and Napoleon had more of a presence, and here he's maybe not quite the magical Negro type, but kind of getting there. But yeah, and again, I think the shift between the first half and the second can feel a little disappointing. It might lose some, or at least might lose some of its luster for some people. Even I would admit that the final moments aren't quite as freeing and thrilling as it wants me to believe it is, but still, it's marvelous. The highs of this movie are so good. It's absolutely worth watching for that first half. It's a little bit like Up in that way, but like there's, it's actually kind of like Up. The first chunk of it is just, it's so good, so beautiful, poetic, and graceful, and really a movie that you absolutely should watch with your kid. And yeah, definitely gotta watch those other movies that I haven't seen since elementary school. Definitely have to seek out some of Caroll's other children's movies, because these do feel like the kind of movie that, again, even if they hit familiar beats, there's a respect for the audience that really can't be ignored. And I think this movie is worth cherishing. You can watch this. You can get this physically through Criterion, and you can watch it for free on Tubi. You'll have some ads here and there. They're a little frequent. They were a little frequent with this one, but small price to pay for a great movie, and it is a great movie. I highly recommend this, and yeah, gotta move on. Gotta move on from there. I got lots to watch. I'm hoping to hit Megalopolis, although there's a hurricane hitting the shores of states such as the life of Florida. So hopefully I can see that as soon as possible. But until then, I am Zach. I love movies. I hope you watch movies. I have a lot more movies to watch, and I hope you watch movies too. And I will see you all next time.